Hey, Coach Ken, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. How have you been?
Going strong, excited to get back on the mats, getting ready for summer camp, getting everybody the information they need, getting my body ready to rock. You know
Yeah,
how it is.
nice. Where are you right now?
I'm in State College at my home training center in my house, and just getting ready for camp here in State College in 3 weeks.
No, that's really special. Hey, while we're on it, tell us a little bit about that camp of yours. What do you mean by
Well, you know the deal, buddy. You've been there enough
it?
times. We get after it and bring in all sorts of studs to help me and help the different campers. This year, a little bit of unique change, a good change, because the Ramada that I run camp at successfully for 20 years is tied in so closely to Penn State. They were struggling a bit, and they're going to close for the summer like Penn State is. And I moved out to Toft Trees Resort. So we're going to wrestle, eat, and sleep at the State College Toft Trees Resort. Conference center bigger than the Ramada, nice setup. It's an upgrade actually because they need the business. It works out really well. And I've been running camp at State College for over 20 years successfully, and I'm excited that despite the viral scares, that we're going to run a healthy, safe camp, and we're going to use the Toft Trees Conference Center Resort.
That is fantastic. It's good to see that, things are opening back up, and it's good to see that we're, starting to provide more wrestling. There's probably going to be events happening later this summer and camps, and I know my club M2 has just opened up, so it's good to see. It's a good thing to experience. But we can talk more about your camp later in the future. But here, just to get this interview kicked off, I want to just ask you, where did you grow up, Coach?
Well, I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and did some wrestling in the suburbs of Illinois. But my main growing up was when we moved to West Virginia when I was 12. And that's when I got serious about wrestling and made a year-round commitment to wrestling and started doing a lot of extra. So I spent grades 7 to 12 in West Virginia. So that's, if a non-athlete like me can get out of a small state like West Virginia and make it to Penn State and make the Olympics, anybody can get it done.
No, that's for
So
sure.
I did not get spoiled like you are with the great wrestling. You're right there with David Taylor on a regular basis. You've grown up training with me for a long time. You've had a lot of extra opportunities that most young men don't have because we're in a wrestling town here in State College. But for me in West Virginia, it was definitely challenging, and it wasn't really a wrestling community, but I just did a lot of extra, did it year round, and it paid off in the form of a scholarship to Penn State.
Wow. How did you get introduced to wrestling?
Mama Chertow took me to the YMCA for lessons in 4th grade, and I got my butt kicked for literally
Nice.
a couple years. In wrestling, I lost more matches than I won. I've heard my friend Brandon Slay, Olympic champ. I've heard his story. He lost his first 20-plus matches. Crazy. And he's an Olympic champ now. But so I struggled my first couple of years. I won some, lost more than I won. But by 6th grade, I was even. And by middle school, I was getting serious about it, starting to lift weights, mature. And like I said, I started doing it year-round. That was a difference for me. I'm not a gifted athlete, but by doing it year-round in 7th grade and then on, I just kept consistently getting better. And that was my start, just an elementary school beginners program, some relaxed competition. Then I got into junior high wrestling and really made a total commitment.
Did anyone else in your family wrestle before you?
Nah, I'm first generation, Jude, like your dad, he's into it, he's always helped me in my club, and he's hardcore, and he introduced you to it at a young age. And that's awesome that you fall in love with and develop a passion for wrestling. And that's what it's all about. But no, I'm first generation, no uncle, no dad. I didn't know what it was. My mom literally just took the flyer from the YMCA and said, "You want to try it?" I said, "Sure." And I was a little short guy, and it worked. I enjoyed it, and just something I took to. But no, you find so many children that try wrestling nowadays have a dad, uncle, or some kind of relative or friend that does it. I didn't.
Was that hard for you to, I don't know, self-motivate? Because to be alone, kind of figuring it out for yourself. Like you said, I have a dad who introduced me to this sport, and I can always turn to him for guidance and things like that. But it sounds like you're first generation. You're kind of alone. How is it to self-motivate yourself?
You asked some good questions, stud. You're going to be a great professional, man. You already are. I would say that I just slowly and steadily took an interest in it. It wasn't like an overnight, oh, I'm good at this, or, oh, I like this. I didn't like it at the first. I didn't love it at first. I just kind of like the workout. I like the challenge. I like the exercise. I like the fitness. And I was self-motivated. I find, I coached a long time at Penn State, Ohio State, and recruited. And I found the guys that did the best were the kids that were self-motivated, that really wanted to be successful because they wanted it, not because they were parent-driven. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of parents might have introduced those stars to wrestling, but ultimately that motivation's got to come from within. So, yeah, I was self-motivated. My mom was just along for the ride. I mean, she took me the first lessons, but she didn't know what was going on. My dad's a doctor. He's a scientist. He's an academic guy. He didn't know what I was getting into. He thought I was kind of crazy when I was making this year-round commitment, asking to buy a wrestling mat in my house. They're like, well, you're crazy, man. But eventually, in 8th grade, I got the ping pong table moved. I literally split the money. It was like $500 back in the day for a home wrestling mat, like a 12 by 12. And I cut lawn, split the cost with my parents, folded up the ping pong table, and boom, home wrestling. Nice. I had a brother that is 5 years younger than me. Poor soul. That was my partner, but he's one of the first students. He grew up into a 2-time state champion and Ohio State wrestler. He's an orthopedic surgeon now, so he would literally be my first student.
Wow, that's fantastic. Because that was my second question was, you have this home training center, the beginning of the home training center. Well, who did you wrestle with aside from your brother? Did you get any other kids in, or was it just you training all year round?
In West Virginia back in that day, I really didn't train my brother. He was 5 years younger. So when I'm 15, he's 10. I'm just kind of teaching the sport. Right. It was mostly shadow drilling. That's what I did on my home, man. I rarely had a drill partner come to my house. But when I got into high school, there wasn't as many clubs as there are now. Like, you have me in your backyard, David Taylor, and many other opportunities, Penn State. I mean, you could go wrestle anywhere. That's not like that in most communities. So be blessed that you have that opportunity and be grateful. But in my case, no, I didn't have that. But I did get the key to my wrestling room in my high school when I was a 9th grader. So I had access, and I'd have a partner meet me over there. And I did a lot of extra, but it wasn't a structured environment with expert coaching like you guys have exposure to nowadays. But I really learned a lot through my wrestling camps. I spent the whole summer away at wrestling camps from 7th grade on. And I would go, and I was self-motivated, and I'm relatively intelligent, and I would go work and drill on the things that I learned at camps and just keep improving. And I had a few different partners. By the time I got to 10th grade, I had a few different partners that would come in and meet me, and we'd work out. One of my best friends in high school was named Bob Taylor. He was 2-time state champ. We worked out a fair amount. But there's another guy from about 20 miles away. And when he got his driver's license when he was 16, he would come meet me. His name's Tony Dickens, and he's a graduate of the Naval Academy. He wrestled at Navy. Bobby, the first guy I mentioned, wrestled at Clemson. So I did have these two guys that, we'd scrap and train. They're about the same size. It was pretty awesome. And they both earned college scholarship opportunities too. So those were my buds. And there was some other guys too, but those were two of my main men.
And so what high school did you attend?
So I'm Huntington, West Virginia, Huntington High School. My high school coach's son is now the head coach of that school. They have a good tradition. They've won state some. The program was solid, good when I was a kid. We never won the state as a team. Me and my buddy were state champs. We had actually 3 back-to-back state champions. Another guy named Sam St. Clair. So the guy that weighed below me and the guy that weighed above me, we 3 in a row won state titles when I was a junior in high school. And it was pretty exciting, but we didn't win. That still didn't win the team title because the rest of the team wasn't as good. Anyways, today Huntington High School, good tradition. Rob Archer's the high school coach. They do well, and he consistently develops individual state champs. They've won the team title a couple times, and that's where I was back in high school. That's where I was from.
So what sort of success, or what was the first time you had success at the youth or high school level, or something big that you're like, oh wait, yeah, I'm actually right there.
It took a while, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, I was a state finalist as a 10th grader. So I made it to the high school state championship finals as a 10th grader. But mind you, that's West Virginia. All right. So I went from there, I went to junior nationals, and I was feeling pretty good, thinking I might do some good things. And I went 0-2 in Greco. It was my first Greco ever. I said, well, I'll be ready for freestyle. I'm a state finals. I'm going to do better than freestyle. 0-2 in freestyle, man. So I was 0-4, my first experience at the junior nationals, what is now Fargo. Mm-hmm. And I could have been like, well, I'm just going to be good in West Virginia, but not good in the other stuff. But instead, I made a commitment to learning freestyle and Greco wrestling. I really studied it. I embraced it. I worked as hard as I could. 2 years later, 700 plus hard days of hard work, I won the junior nationals in the Greco and the freestyle.
Wow.
So I went from 0-4 to 2 years later, double champion.
Man, how did you first get introduced to freestyle and Greco?
Showing up at a tournament and getting killed. Well, my first exposure in Greco was junior nationals, getting killed. I had wrestled freestyle at a tournament in 9th grade. I mean, I lived West Virginia. For y'all that are geographically challenged, does border Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Right.
It's a little rural town. And so I would get some tournaments in Ohio and Pennsylvania. I had some freestyle matches in 9th grade and 10th grade. So I had a clue what was going on in freestyle. But then the rest of the way I learned through camps. I would go to camp and I'd ask the counselors to wrestle me, teach me extra freestyle. When I was a junior in high school, instead of going 0-4 at junior nationals, I chose my junior year. I hooked up with Team Pennsylvania to go to junior nationals with the team. So instead of just going by myself from West Virginia, the Tom Canavan used to be the PAWF director for Pennsylvania. Then it became Van Plokus for all these recent years till recently Joe Stabolito took over. But there's really good leadership, as you know, in Pennsylvania. And they took me with to Fargo, and I was able to learn a lot of wrestling through the junior national camps and going there. And I just kept learning steadily. And then through college, I mean, I'm one of the first people involved in the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, which is as successful ever as any club ever today, along with the Hawkeye Club. And during college, instead of drinking beer and get in trouble, I would wrestle all spring and summer and just keep getting better at freestyle. And that's how I learned freestyle. I just kept improving steadily, so that it worked. As you know, I was on the Olympics. So I was in college. I made the Olympic team at age 21. I was a junior at Penn State, and I definitely had spent a lot of time training freestyle and Greco by then.
At what point did you know that you wanted to pursue an Olympic title?
Well, I watched the Olympics in junior high school. It was 1980. For y'all to follow history, the Russians hosted that Olympics, and we boycotted it. So it wasn't so exciting for me, but I saw the Olympics on TV. I was like, oh, I'd like to do that. I saw some wrestling, but not the Americans, right? So it's kind of mixed experience. That was the year that Jimmy Carter boycotted the Olympics. We didn't get to go. So many legends, some guys I looked up to, like Gene Mills, Lee Kemp, and many others, world champions, did not get to wrestle in that Olympics. But 4 years later, the Olympics were in Los Angeles, and I remember that vividly. It was on television. Now, today you guys take it for granted, but that was one of the first Olympics broadly televised. It was in the USA, obviously. It was easy. It was, prime time. And I saw Mary Lou Retton from West Virginia win Olympic gold in gymnastics. And I'm from West Virginia. She grew up 100 miles away. That's very inspiring. But then I also saw Bobby Weaver, Dave and Mark Schultz, the Bannock brothers. It was incredible. Nate Carr was he wasn't in that Olympics, but he and Andy Ryan battled to make that Olympic team, and Andy Ryan was in the Olympic finals. So many guys I looked up to and knew succeeded in that Olympics when I was a senior in high school. So I won junior nationals, both styles, as a senior in high school, and I was already signed to Penn State. And then a few weeks later was the Olympics, late August, I believe, off the top of my head. And I saw that happen. And to your question, when did the Olympics become a real vision for me? Then I saw it. I was like, okay, not just college. Let's go to the Olympics. Let's win the Olympic gold.
Man, wow. When was your first experience competing overseas?
First experience overseas. Well, I made the junior world team as a senior in high school, and that world championship was not overseas. That was in America, Washington, D.C. I won the junior world championship in America. It was pretty cool. Sadly, that year, though, was the boycott year. It was the 84 Olympic year. So the Russian junior team didn't come over, which kind of bummed me out. My first experience actually competing overseas was in Israel in the Maccabi games the following year. So before I even made a world team at a senior world team or anything like that, I got to wrestle for the Maccabi team. That's the best Jewish wrestlers in the world in our nation represent me. So I got to go to Israel, and I won the Greco and the freestyle there. That was exciting. And, I got to go overseas, a dozen times in the next 5 to 8 years or so. I competed internationally until I was 25. So I was overseas many times after that.
Hmm. What was that experience like? I mean, like you're still a kid for the most part, right? And I'm at least for the world championships that was held in America. I mean, you're traveling to DC, you're wrestling all these foreign wrestlers who are coming in. What was that experience like for you, and how did you view it as a senior?
It was cool. I had never wrestled foreign guys at my senior year of high school, so that was different. There's different styles, especially Asian guys. They jump around a lot. I wrestled a guy from Japan in that one. Uh, but you just take it one match at a time. You don't try to think about it too much. You don't overthink it. You just do what you do best and not get too engrossed in that type of thing. I felt always good. I always, against foreigners, I felt like they put a lot of emphasis on details and technique and patience,
Right.
especially the Europeans and the Soviet Union at that time. So when it later in the age, like I made the junior world team again, 85 and 86, my freshman and sophomore year of college. So I wrestled in 3 junior world championships. I would try to put pressure on those guys. It was really, I always liked to underhook and work the head, but against Europeans, those guys tried to slow the pace. I really put a lot of emphasis on banging the head, snapping them down, and getting the front headlock position. And that was just kind of tactically what I thought. But, I didn't really care what country people were from. I just wrestled hard as I could and get after it.
Nice. And I mean, you can even see that nowadays is like Team USA, not only do we have incredible technique, but we win a lot of matches on pace too, right? High pace, high velocity of attacks, and it wears foreign guys out because they don't put that sort of emphasis on conditioning and the grind that Americans do. It's interesting to see how different we do it. And so I talked with, I don't know if you know who Nazar Kolchisky is, but he was a Ukraine wrestler, transferred to, he moved to America when he was, around 16 years old. He ended up winning 3 Division III titles for Wisconsin Oshkosh, and now he's competing for, on the senior level. But, what he said that really surprised me is he's like, there's only freestyle, there's freestyle and there's Greco, but you don't do both, right? And he's like, and our practices are like 45 minutes of, gymnastics and then 45 minutes of live wrestling, but there's no like hard drilling or anything like that. And so, we're both America and foreign guys have success, but we do it in very different ways. So I don't know. I find that really interesting. And I like to talk about this with a lot of different people, just about how there's not one road to success in this sport. And that's kind of what's interesting is, obviously you have to put in time, you have to put in effort, and work hard. But as far as training goes, you have Russians who, probably have never stepped on an exercise bike or a treadmill or something. And they can win world championships. And then you have Americans who are, pushing their bodies to the limit and becoming very talented athletes, also going and winning world championships too. So there's a different emphasis, and it's just interesting to see. But okay, Coach. So tell us about the recruiting process for you. And you're in high school. How did you know that you wanted to go to Penn State?
John Fritz. So when I was, I believe in 9th grader, he came and did a camp in West Virginia for a small camp back there in my hometown. And then another year at this place called West Liberty, he did a camp there. I got to know him. So I wrote him handwritten letters and kept in touch a little bit. They didn't recruit me heavily. West Virginia doesn't get recruited much. Still today, it doesn't get recruited much. We had a good connection. He kept in touch, and when I'm trying to think of the timeline, when Penn State, my senior year, I hadn't committed yet in the spring. People don't commit as early as they do now. Penn State had an NCAA champ at 118 and 134. Their names were Carl DeStephanis and Scott Lynch. And John Fritz, NCAA champ at 126. So Coach Fritz, there's just the emotions of them winning. It was exciting together. There was, I guess, something special. And at that tournament, it was at Princeton. It was at the Meadowlands. And I went up to him in the hallway literally after the end of the NCAA tournament. The gym was clearing out. And he said, "Hey, Coach Fritz, congratulations." It was pretty cool. In many ways, he had just won two NCAA individual champions. It was pretty neat. And we just talked for a few minutes, and I let him know I'm still interested because there's some other schools offering me more money. But we stayed in touch that month a lot, and then in the Dapper Dan, I was up against this guy named Matt Gearhart, who's undefeated 4-time Pennsylvania state champion, who had muscles like crazy. And I was like, you swish. I looked like I was 12, man. All right. So I went up against Gearhart. I actually lost the match 4-3, but I out-hustled him. I out-wrestled him. He was just so strong, and it all worked out. I actually came to Penn State on not a full scholarship. Me and my training partner, Jimmy Martin, both came to Penn State. He was a state champion, like 98 or 105, I think.
Yeah.
We both came on partial scholarships, and because we wanted to be there. Interestingly, his dad is also a doctor. So
he's a doctor now.
Pardon me?
Isn't Jim Martin
Jimmy's a doctor, but his dad is a doctor, as was mine. And we both came and trained and got better and improved and just kept moving and kept getting better, and it all worked out good. But that's pretty much – you asked about the process. I mean, I had opportunities to go to Oklahoma, Iowa State, Wisconsin, and many other places. I had full ride offers, but I wanted to stay within driving distance of home. And I saw the vision Penn State had. Rich Lorenzo, the head coach, who's now in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Ashura Oishi, the freestyle Greco coach, and the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club coach. They had a vision for Penn State, a vision for the future, a freestyle Greco program. It made sense for me, and it obviously worked out well for me. And it's exciting to see the success of Penn State University now and our wrestling tradition and the Nittany Lion Club. It's pretty cool. They just kind of kept getting better and better and evolving, and more money has come into it so that we keep more senior level athletes around. Like when I graduated from Penn State, it wasn't like they could pay me to stay and train with Nittany Lion Club like Zane Rutherford and David Taylor and so many others. I took a job. I took a job at Ohio State coaching wrestling, where I trained there, and that worked out very well for me. But it's just a different environment at that time. There wasn't the money that there is now to stay in wrestling competing. So I had to coach college wrestling while I was competing. It was a unique combination.
Yeah, no, that does seem very difficult. But I mean, like you said, you had success in college wrestling, right? You were 3-time All-American. So Coach, talk about that success and how did you frame it in your mind? I mean, you came from, a small state, right? West Virginia, and you kept getting better and better and better and better. Now you're on the big stage. What was that like for you?
It was exciting. It was fun. It was all good. It was just a nice challenge. But just of it, I mean, it's a big difference wrestling in front of, 100 people in a dual meet in West Virginia. I mean, it's not like Pennsylvania where there might be 500 or 1,000. I mean, it's literally 100 people. It's your parents and, my 2 or 3 girlfriends, right? Hey, seriously, though, there was just not many people there. It's mostly the family. So I was exciting to wrestle at Penn State. That's the gist of it. It was a fun experience, and I was a good competitor in a sense. In the limelight, I did well. I could get out in front of people, and it would bring the best out of me. I would use the emotions to perform at a high level.
What and how good was the team when you were on it? Like, I mean, you said you were there with Jim Martin, and obviously he was a national champion.
Yeah. So coming into it, we were solid in the early 80s, like top 10 program. The year, my senior year of high school, was 2 NCAA champions. I'm pretty sure we were 5th or thereabouts. Don't quote me on that, but I think that put them at 5th. There wasn't a whole lot of depth necessarily at that moment. There was a couple other placers, maybe 4th. I don't remember exactly. But anyways, we were a top 5 program consistently. I mean, while I was at Penn State on the team, we won the national duels, and then we're 2nd in the NCAA tournament. So we had we built a powerful team. And some of the other guys you'd be familiar with, another training partner of mine was Tim Flynn. Tim was West Virginia, right? Tim Flynn is now the head coach at WVU. Yeah, so he's one of my best friends as Jim Martin. So we were training partners, and we had good lightweights. But we also had some good solid upper weights as well. So Troy Sunderland and Dave Hart were 2 of our top guys who they were coaches at Penn State prior to Kale. So they were 2 of the guys a little younger than me. So we had we built a strong team that just kept getting better and better.
Clearly, I mean, now it's definitely doing well. And I mean,
as I think about Penn State wrestling and I mean, obviously there's guys coming from all over. Mark Hall coming in from Minnesota, Kentucky, Michigan, wherever he went to all the high schools. But Bo Nickel coming from Texas, different people coming from different places. But I'm really proud of Zane. I mean, Zane, somebody, that was around my kids' club a lot. I don't think you're old enough to have overlapped him. Like when you were 7 or 8, he was probably already in college. But he was consistent. And Quentin Wright. So Quentin Wright grew up coming to my gym full time. And when he was part of the NCAA championship team when Penn State won in Philadelphia to win their first NCAA championship of this era. And that was a really exciting time. Quentin, I think it was his sophomore year. He won his NCAA title as a sophomore, and that propelled Penn State. He actually clinched the team title for Penn State that year. And another one of my favorites, who Brad Pataki, was the captain of that team. He was a senior in college that year. And him and Quentin had grown up training with me. So it's exciting to see the Penn State guys, and that was the first generation of Cale's group. Quentin and Brad were already on the team under Sunderland, and then Cale adopted them and brought in David from Iowa State because David had already committed to Iowa State. And that just kind of snowballed the success of the current era. Just an amazing recruiting, amazing development, and just has totally stood out in the crowd here until this year when Iowa snuck in there.
Yeah.
Iowa keeps pulling in these transfers, man.
I know, right? They have more PA guys on their lineup than we do, right? So
yeah, good. It's competition's good for the sport, though. I want to see everybody. I mean, I'm all for my alma mater killing it and running away, but a parody's good. It's exciting, and this was really an exciting year, and there was a lot of anticipation of the NCAA tournament, right?
Oh.
And then, bam, COVID and stuff. So,
Man,
hey,
did you see any of that?
We'll have it again next year.
Where were you when you heard that the NCAA tournament was canceled?
I had just returned for the Pac-12 tournament, so I ran the Pac-12. I'm a TV broadcaster for the Pac-12 network and a Big Ten network too. But in that particular weekend, I was at Stanford covering the Pac-12 for the Pac-12 network, and then I came back to town. I flew back to State College, and that week is when they announced that the NCAA was going to be not happening.
Wow. It was for me, it happened so fast because coronavirus, it was something you'd see it on the news, but I never really thought it would affect my life directly. And then, I had the state championships and I wrestled there. I competed okay. And then 3 days later, it's all canceled, everything, and then we're going into lockdown and it's just, it just happened so fast. And it was such a quick turnaround from what, nobody expected it. So, what else can you say?
Unique time in world history, Swish. And it's a lot, but fortunately not too many young people are getting sick. Fortunately around here, things are safe and healthy. And, we got to get back to life here. We can't be living in fear. There's always gonna be that little bit of risk of getting sick, but
right.
We got to stay healthy, keep our immune systems healthy, just, be fit and be able to battle infection of any sort of virus. And we'll just keep prevailing.
Yes, sir. So you had mentioned, Quentin, Pataki, Zane, all these guys who have come through your program and had success at the highest level. Tell us about not specifically these kids, but kids who came through your camp system and your home training center. Any names you can throw out there or anyone you'd like to talk about specifically.
Sure. Your question wasn't real clear. You mean my camp or locally here?
We'll start with the local home training center.
Well, those three are the three that hit the top of the head immediately, or the most successful perhaps. But the Hidley brothers.
Right.
Aiden and Trent Hidley have schlepped over the mountain from Lewistown. Their dad Mark brought them when Hayden was 7 and Trent was 6, and they just kept coming. And they dragged Noah Stewart along for the ride. Noah's at West Point. But Trent and Hayden, as most people know, are the core of North Carolina State's program. They're the captains and leaders. And they were destined to have a great season. They had a great season this year.
Yeah, they did.
Hayden's been on the brink of NCAA titles, right? Just losing by a skin of his hair to Nolf and what have you. And Trent, as a freshman this year, had a breakout season. But those guys have been in my gym forever and ever. It was exciting to see their success. Those would be two of the current college wrestlers that are, grew up in my gym on a full-time basis. But over the years, there's been tons of campers that come from all over the country or all over Pennsylvania as well that have excelled, like NCAA champions from Harvard and Penn and Cornell. that's, I'm big on being a serious student. One of my camp slogans is be a scholar athlete,
Right.
not a dumb
Not a
jock.
dumb jock.
Right? That's the politically correct version. The other version would be don't be a knucklehead.
Don't
All right. In any case, Troy Nickerson, Cornell, J.P. O'Connor, Harvard, Matt Valenti, Penn. He's He's actually two-time NCAA champ, and he is one of the ADs at Penn now. But you want to reach that pinnacle. So whether it's the Ivy League or the Big Ten or small colleges, I mean, let's face it, most of the wrestlers are not going to Penn State, Big Ten, and Ivy League. Most wrestlers are going to other schools. So I'm really proud of the kids that grow up and develop and go to other schools, take other opportunities. Another local guy that I have tremendous memories of that came a lot to my gym with Brad Pataki is Matt Kyler, and he's an Army Ranger now. He went to West Point. He was an All-American, became an Army Ranger. So, I mean, we just keep making progress, keep getting after it.
It's pretty special. And then, you had countless guys come through your gold medal training camp system. So, Coach, tell us about the gold medal training camp system. When did you start it? When did you have the idea to start doing camps and to eventually run your own very successful camp system?
Well, that's a great question. And the answer is I went to a lot as a teenager, and I mentioned that earlier, and I saw different things. I saw some good and a lot of mediocre, a lot of half-motivated college kids as counselors, a lot of camp directors just kind of along for the ride, college coaches throwing things together. I mean, don't get me wrong, I benefited, but I felt I could do better. And I had great experiences working as a counselor for John Fritz's camp during college. So I was really hands-on. And while I was doing that, I was running day camps. So during college, I was running day camps, different towns, clinics, and being a counselor at John Fritz's camps. And I just learned and worked hard and learned how to develop my own system, what I call the gold medal training camp system. And I try to be really organized, structured, teach a lot of review sessions, drill sessions, just give the ideal camp experience, both on and off the mats. As you know, I've chosen to bring my camps to hotel conference centers. So instead of being in the hot dorm and schlepping across campus and playing around with the girls in sports camps and stuff, we're wrestling, man. You've been there enough to know it's all wrestling and we get after it. And I've seen you as a commuter. You don't get to go home. You just, it's like, tell them I've seen you sit between sessions, resting, getting ready for the next session. And, it's all business. Make the most of every minute, make the most of every session. So I've tried to run the very best camp possible, take care of the kids, give them a good, healthy, positive experience. That's another thing. Some of the counselors I think are like in other camps over the years, like indifferent or even bullying. And I want to provide good role models for my students they're going to help them get a path to success in college, success in life, and just have a positive, beneficial experience in every aspect of the way.
Yeah. And I'll say from my personal experience, like when I want to say 9 or 10 years old, this was one of the very first like steps I took into becoming the wrestler I am today. And hopefully the wrestler I become in the future, but I did the full 2 weeks of your training camp in the Ramada. And like, before that I'd done, a couple sessions here and there, but this was like 3 practices a day, 2 weeks straight, like just, wrestling with tons of kids. And, there'd be kids coming through 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, 2 week campers. And like, I remember those 2 weeks were like eye-opening to me because if I remember correctly, I think like Mitchell Port was there, AJ Shop. You have guys coming in from different countries. You have guys coming from all over, the state and all over America just to come in and train here. And I remember being like so, awestruck that like all of this wrestling was happening, and like I was just on the edge of like kind of understanding what was going on. But yeah, no, I did that first 2 weeks there, and then I believe I did it for the next I want to say probably 3 or 4 years. And like every year it was a system, and it was clear that there was, a plan going into action, and it was executed perfectly. And I mean,
Swish, did you say you were 9 when you did 2 weeks?
I might have been 9 or 10. I want to say.
Wow, that's impressive. Most of those 9, 10-year-olds, they crumple after 4 or 5 days. Swish, You're
Yeah,
a
no,
beast.
I didn't have an excuse because I mean, like, I'm a commuter, like you said. It was a 10-minute drive from my house, and so my dad would drop me off in the morning at 8 o'clock, and I'd pack a lunch, and I just stay there the whole day.
He's like, I'm not picking you up.
I'm
Don't
done.
call me. I'm not. You're,
He's like, I'm out of here later, nerd. Um, but I mean, it was a phenomenal experience, and I remember, you know, I'll admit going into it, I was always nervous. Like, there's just a lot of things going on. I'm a little guy, but like coming out of it, I remember especially after that first 2 weeks, um, it just gave me this level of confidence. Like, yeah, I went through it, and yeah, it's a tough camp, and there's a lot of wrestling, a lot of tough guys come through, but I came through it, and I'm a better wrestler because of it. I'm a tougher human being. And so it was an excellent experience, and I highly suggest that everyone should go try it because it's fantastic.
That's awesome, Switch. I'm glad you have such positive memories. We gotta do our next podcast from camp, right
From
there at
camp.
Top Street, baby. Me and you could have a featured go. We could put it on YouTube. I think you might be ready to challenge for the title. I'm only 53 though, man. I'm still going strong. I feel 35, baby.
You feel 35.
I'm ready for you.
How much you weigh?
140 now?
I'm just about 140. How much you weigh?
I got enough on you to handle you.
Oh.
All right. When those shots, you'll have to go for the ankles.
Listen,
we'll get on. Hey, you mentioned, I'm glad you have memories of AJ Mitchell. That's a good story. You asked me earlier about past campers and stuff, but they're a cool story because AJ Mitchell, like you, they started doing my camp when they were young, and they did multiple weeks. So AJ shops from Tyrone, 30 minutes south of here. Mitchell Bellefonte from Bellefonte, 20 minutes north or whatever. And they would come to my gym since they were literally 6-7 years old. My local home training center, they'd work out together. And they would do camps in the summer, like you, multiple weeks at a young age. They were hardcore. They weren't the greatest athletes in elementary school. They didn't win PJW states or nothing. They just kept getting better, kept improving, and both became high school state champions their senior year of high school. So they weren't gifted necessarily. I mean, they got good gifts, but they weren't like genetic freaks. They just kept getting better. And they chose to go to school together with Coach Flynn. And my buddy Tim Flynn, who's then coaching Edinburgh, is now at WVU. So it's pretty cool. They met at my camps, and they met at my home training center, and they met at my camps when they were 6, 7, 8. They kept coming together for a decade, went away to college together, and now AJ's the assistant coach at Purdue. They had a very good season. They keep improving. He's a difference maker. One of the best wrestlers on top I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, ridiculous.
And then Mitchell is Coach Flynn's assistant at WVU. So both these guys, certainly I'm all for developing doctors, lawyers, businessmen, teachers, but it's pretty cool to see two of my proteges successfully coaching and making a living teaching wrestling at the college level. It's pretty nice. And those are two favorites. They did it together for a long time.
And I think it's really interesting that you'd say that they weren't the talented athletes from their youth, right? And it's just a consistent getting better. Now they're in college, or when they were in college, I mean, AJ Shop, he was tearing people up with a cross wrist tilt. And Mitchell Port, just like high level All-Americans, clearly very talented and have a really good foundation. And they were able to tear it up on the college level. So, and I mean,
in different ways too, we talk about, you went on a little tangent about the Russian versus American training systems. Well, here in America, we got lots of different technical systems too, right? Like AJ Shop, long, skinny, lanky, not particularly explosive. Mitchell, stocky, good position, really good to shrug, single leg, different styles, different games. They're both good on top, but different styles on top. Mitchell's a near wrist guy, AJ's cross wrist guy. Just apples and oranges, but I coach them both. One of the keys for coaches, whether it's a club or whether it's camps, is helping the individuals perfect their style. Right. Like for you, I spent a lot of time with you as an elementary school, middle school guy, and broad picture, big picture stuff. And now Coach Maney is your high school coach, and David is your club coach. Have to really hone and help you perfect your individual style. Are you going to wrestle like Mike Maney, which is kind of like Mitchell Port, kind of conservative, good single leg, not too crazy, or you can be more like David with your magic tricks, baby, tricks up your sleeve, and you being a bright young guy, you're smart, you have enough savvy to have a diverse repertoire, you're going to be able to develop a wide arsenal. I mean, your arsenal, you have a great foundation from youth wrestling and being wrestling a lot for the past 5 years or more. Now you're really starting to hone in on certain areas, perfect your style and your finally hit adolescence, you're getting big. And I mean, you got the growth pattern of David. If you could get up there, I don't think your parents are going to be quite as big as David.
No, I
But
don't think so either.
it's pretty cool to think David's growth pattern growing from 106 as a freshman high school to becoming a 149-pound freshman in college, really skinny then, and then 184-pound world champ. I mean, that's one thing to say for people. You just got to keep growing and getting stronger and improving. One thing that I hate as parents is having the kids cut too much weight. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but grow into the next weight class. Eat healthy, get stronger, build muscle, and success will come over time. Don't try to cut weight when you're 10, 11 years old because consistently and losing water on it's no fun. Keep wrestling fun. My message to parents and coaches home would be help your children and help your athletes, your students, develop a passion for wrestling. Teach the game, enjoy it, but don't make it miserable.
Right. And I mean, like, that's the biggest thing. You know, I know that the perception of wrestling across the board from youth is like, at least for me, it was, this isn't fun, you know, because again, like it goes with cutting weight and it goes with hard practices. And like, I'll say it, kids these days are soft, right? It's hard. Wrestling is a hard sport. But that is the key, you know, to make it fun, to make it enjoyable, and to get them to want to come back to practice, to get them hungry, to get them to, you know, be self-motivated. And so as, you know, I'm sure you could say as your role as a coach, you want to inspire athletes and get them to come back. And, you know, just keep steadily improving. So that's all really special. Coach, here's a question. You know, anyone who knows you knows that you are a fitness nerd, a nut. You love, you know, eating healthy, working out, you know, and keeping your body in tip-top shape. When did you start on that nutrition train? Like, how old were you about?
Love eating healthy is a stretch, okay?
Yeah.
So I know it's important to eat healthy if you want to be at your best.
There's a difference, right?
I mean, when I was a kid, I was loving the Big Macs, right? 12
Right.
beef cakes, sauceless, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. I mean, I ate plenty of Big Macs in elementary school, obviously. Bologna, too. Oscar Mayer, I could give you that jingle as well. But the answer to your question, Swish, is that in middle school, when I made a year-round commitment to wrestling, I started lifting weights and working to get strong and hitting hard.
Nice.
When I made a commitment in middle school to year-round training, I also made a commitment to putting the right fuel in my system. I mean, if you're gonna train hard, push your body like this, why eat junk food, right? So let's be healthy. Let's live the healthy, clean life. Take care of yourself. This is before the supplement era. This is just basic nutrition stuff. And even when I wrote a book when I was in my 20s, I had a whole chapter of the 7 chapters. One chapter was entirely on nutrition, the science of eating healthy for wrestling. So you got to put good, healthy foods. And most people know the basics at this point: fruits, vegetables, lean meats, small portions, lots of water. It is not rocket science. It's self-discipline. It's commitment. It's making the decision to do these things consistently. It's about my mom, who I'm fortunate enough was willing to cook healthy and provide. Once she realized I was dedicated to wrestling, she helped the family get healthier. So yeah, the answer to your question is middle school. I made a commitment to good nutrition in middle school. And then when my friends started drinking beer and smoking dope in high school, I didn't do none of that stuff. Stayed clean, ate healthy. Again, why put that crap in your system? Exactly. You got to make that decision again in college. I know you've already made the decision in high school. You're living clean, but you're going to make that decision again in college. You're going to go to college and 90% plus is drinking beer all the time, smoking and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I made that decision to say no. So it all ties together. It's about making good nutrition decisions. And even today, some college athletes get sucked into that college social scene, partying scene, drinking scene, and other stuff. And it cannot possibly enable you to maximize performance if you're not eating healthy. And then elaborating, supplements have become huge, right? I partner with David Taylor. I'm using pure supplements, no artificial sweeteners. I've been doing this for 30 plus years, eating clean, eating healthy. And as supplements became important over the past 20 or so years, I've studied it, kept up with it, tried to direct my athletes to the best cutting edge materials. And most recently, that is Pure. It's a company that started 10 years ago. It's cutting edge nutrition. I want my athletes, my students, and their parents putting the best possible fuel in your system. So like I said, David's actually the one that introduced me to Pure, and I'm loving it, enjoying it. And like I said earlier, I'm 53, feeling like I'm 35.
Oh boy.
So going strong and enjoying it.
Man, I can't wait. You're gonna try to squish me. You're just gonna try to
Well, we
muscle
got to
me
get
over.
we got to get some rebuild protein powder in you, Swish. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't see those. Yeah, let me get my microscope out, dude. All right. So
Yeah.
it's adolescents. You got any hair yet?
Nothing.
No, no, no razor yet.
No,
No
not
need for the
yet.
razor.
Not yet.
All right. It'll
Listen.
come. So that the supplements are good, but the adolescence helps too. And I know you're there.
That is
So
that is a big
you're
help.
ready to start growing. Like I said, look at David's growth pattern, huh? That's crazy.
Right.
So everybody does it at different ages, different sizes. Zane Rutherford won the state as a freshman Swish. He weighed 95 pounds and he won the state at 106 or 103 or whatever it was.
Right.
I mean, it's just a matter of getting things done. You just grow into those next weight classes, and you're obviously a big kid now and getting bigger. So, but yeah, proper nutrition, I'm all about it. And anybody that ever wants to learn more about it should just contact me, and I help my wrestlers, my campers, the parents with the proper nutrition and with the pure nutrition products. So nutrition science is cutting edge. Like, I'm a biology major. I went to medical school. That's an area. You've asked some great questions, man, but I don't know if you even knew that. You
No,
probably
I
knew.
did. Oh yeah, I knew that.
Yes, from being around me enough. But anyways, I mean, I'm science. I'm into biology, chemistry, nutrition. And so it's kind of been a good segue to add on the nutrition supplementation as nutrition science has evolved so much the past 10, 20 years to make sure we're getting good quality products in our system rather than there's a lot of junk supplements out there. There's
Right.
a lot of illegal supplements or ones that are not WADA or NCAA approved. So you got to make sure you're using the products that are healthy, like Pure, that are NCAA approved and safe for young people and healthy.
No, that's really special. And I know that, for me, always coming up, like it's been clear that this is something you valued very highly. And it's very interesting. It's cool to see that you're so passionate about not only your own personal health, but, trying to help other people have high, good personal health too. And I don't want to be say too much things about society nowadays, but it's easier than ever before to get fat, right? And
it's the reality. I mean, obesity is a national crisis. If you look at this COVID, I mean, I don't want to get into the details and everything, but obviously a lot of people that are older are struggling, but a lot of people that are obese are the ones that are struggling the most, battling the illness, battling the virus. Whereby most, not all, but the healthy people are doing better, fighting it quicker and moving, getting healthy, recovering from the virus.
Yeah, no, it's
Because
about
it's reality. A lot of us are going to get viral illness, whether it's COVID or any other virus, influenza or anything else. And you have to be, the healthier you are, the more fit you are, the better rested you are, the more capability you're going to have to fight and beat that disease and illness.
No, that I completely agree with you. So, we're coming to the end of this interview. I want to ask just a couple last few questions. First of all, so you've done camps all over the country. Here's just something I was wondering, but what sort of regional differences are there in youth and high school wrestling? Are there any at all? How does the wrestling differ in Pennsylvania from, the West Coast and other places?
Okay, the thing that makes Pennsylvania better than most of the other states, I mean, we're the most successful. It's not a bragging thing or anything. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania is the most successful high school wrestling state in the country, and at the NCAA tournament, almost every year, over 1/4 of the NCAA All-Americans are from the state of Pennsylvania. Sometimes more than 30% of the NCAA All-Americans are from the state of Pennsylvania in their high school, where they went to high school. So Pennsylvania is really good. Why? You asked me why. Mat wrestling, top and bottom wrestling. Ohio puts a lot of emphasis on takedowns. California, another strong wrestling state, a lot of emphasis on takedowns. The Pennsylvania kids grind hard on the mat. If you got Zane Rutherford running power halves and AJ Shop running cross wrist rolls, and these guys are grinding, and Mitchell Port on near wrist, these guys are tough on top. Everybody else has to get good on bottom too. So top and bottom gets so better. So when everybody's so closely matched at the high level of high school or in college, what's a difference maker? The ability to ride and grind on a guy, the ability to score a set of back points, the necessity to get off bottom. A lot of the California and Ohio high school kids struggle to get off bottom at the highest level of high school and college because there's so much takedown games. It's specifically Ohio that I can speak to, because I've coached Ohio State for 3 years and I've just studied the sport a lot. The referees in Ohio call stalling on top a lot quicker, which forces the kids to let the guys go and go more takedowns faster. Whereby here in Pennsylvania, the officials give a little more patience to the grind on top and bottom, and it just creates better mat wrestlers. So I could go on and on about some different things, but in general, one of the things that separates Pennsylvania wrestlers from the crowd is mat wrestling. And then another thing is the culture. We have a rich culture of wrestling. Like growing up in West Virginia, there was no culture of wrestling. I mean, it just wasn't there really. But when I came to Penn State and went to Rec Hall and saw the excitement, the energy, you go to high school dual meets and they're excited. You know, your school, Belfont, not the powerhouse of the country, but it's good. And
they packed the gym every match. Every match.
There you go. Okay, they packed the gym, and they're a good high school team. In all due respect, I mean, they haven't won the team state title yet or anything, but they're packing the gym every time. These people in Belfont and Center County, our area, care about wrestling. So I'd say those are the two things: mat wrestling and culture. We take it seriously, so we get more kids involved at a younger age. More kids get started, and it evolves. The cream rises to the top. They have clubs. You know, there's a lot of clubs here in state Pennsylvania. There's a lot of colleges that wrestle, which means there are a lot of the high school coaches wrestle in college. So our wrestlers are getting high-level training. We're out west, it's not quite the same. There's not as much college wrestling. A lot of the high school coaches did not wrestle in college. There's not quite as much competition. And for all those reasons, Pennsylvania has continued to pull themselves up from the crowd. Now, don't get me, the gap has closed a little bit over the years, but again, I just go by the NCAA results. Pennsylvania high school wrestlers have a tremendous percentage of success at the NCAA tournament.
Right. And, you know, going back to what you said about mat wrestling is that there is a tremendous, you know, incentive to be good at mat wrestling, right? Like NCAA, 4 points for backs, right? Riding time, you know, and so there's just a lot of points to be scored. And it's, you know, it's hard to take down a good guy, especially at the Division I level. It's hard to get a takedown. But if you can get a turn, get 4 backs, that's equivalent to 2 takedowns. And it can blow the match wide open. So I would say that has something to do with it too. And
see, you're probably gonna be a college coach someday. But what you just said in that 30 seconds or 45 seconds or whatever it was is spot on, baby, spot on. And for those of you that don't follow college wrestling, like obviously you do, but some people don't follow it as close. Right. I mean, the new rule, maybe 3 years ago, 4 count, 4 back points. If you can get one of those, you're probably going to win. I mean, usually the guy, if somebody scores 4 back points a match, they're almost always going to win.
Yeah,
and then
as you know,
and then as you know, close matches can often be decided by that riding time point. I don't like the concept that much, but those are the rules. So if you're really good on top or you're kind of so-so on bottom, that's a problem when you get to college. So you better be a complete wrestler. And that's one of the things that I, as a coach and as a camp director, really put a lot of emphasis on. Getting tough on top and making sure you can get that chain wrestling to get that 1 point on bottom. And I also like the rolls on bottom too. That's something that doesn't get taught very much. That it's, hey, if you're not a good athlete, why not look for 5 from the bottom?
Mm-hmm. No, or even 6 from the bottom if it's college. I mean, it's a special thing to be a part of, especially like, you know, growing up here in Pennsylvania, and all my wrestling experience has been in Pennsylvania. So this is all I've ever known, which, you know, kind of, I recognize, like, I'm very blessed to be here, and I'm very lucky to be here. And because I know there's kids who love wrestling just as much as I do, but don't have all these, you know, these opportunities that I have. And so it's my job to be grateful and to make the most out of them. So I don't know, that it's all very cool, and it all ties back in together. And that's kind of what wrestling's about, right? It comes full circle, and it's all interconnected. So Coach, again, a couple last questions. How do you envision the course of wrestling at the youth and high school level growing over the next few years? Just as vague or as specific as you'd like to be.
Well, I think coaches need to put more emphasis on the promotion of our sport. I think we all love to coach wrestling in the wrestling room and teach the X to the O's, but I challenge all coaches to spend more time making connections with your local media, reaching out, encouraging them to come visit your practice room, your matches. Put some concerted effort into it. Also reach out to parents. Find your parent leaders. Get them to help you. And put fans in the seats. Just like you said, Belfont fills the stands. Create a culture locally so we can grow nationally and globally. And that's how we're going to do it. We got to get more people out. We got to build more fan base. We got to teach an exciting style of wrestling, and then good things will happen.
No, that I completely agree with you. Coach, what are some plans you have for, not only the immediate future, but also, for the rest of your lifetime?
It's a great question. I'm still exploring those goals. It's funny you asked that question because I've chosen to try some different things. I started a new college program. I'm looking at different opportunities in other places. So I actually have sold my home and home training center, and I'm going to be doing more remote clinics, more traveling clinics. And that way, because my family's growing, my children are 22 and 24, so I don't need the big property anymore. And I'm going to go to different gyms and be traveling more. And, I've only lived half my life, so I'm excited to set some future goals. And one of my main goals is just to continue running a great summer camp here in State College and attract and develop serious wrestlers that want to reach their highest goals. Long-term goals, those are constantly evolving. But I do enjoy getting out and traveling to different clinics, and that's a lot of fun for me. And I've been traveling the country nationwide. I tie it in a lot to my TV work when I travel to the West Coast or Chicago for Big Ten or any other Big Ten towns. So, but I always go and do clinics. It's neat.
What other hobbies do you have, like outside of wrestling, or I mean, do you?
What do you think, Swish?
Man, I don't know.
So I love the wrestling. Obviously, I've embraced the healthy lifestyle. I like the nutrition. I personally, I'm not a big hobby guy. I don't hunt. I don't fish. My life's work is helping kids excel in our sport. My life's work was raising my kids who are now 22 and 24. So, I don't do many hobbies. I do wrestling. I do the nutrition. I'm very engrossed in my nutrition company and helping people maximize that. It's a business too. A lot of the people, coaches, parents, get involved in the business of nutrition. I'm very involved in that. That's kind of my hobby, for lack of a better word. I like to take walks when I'm not training and just go out, enjoy outside.
Dude, I love outside, especially now that it's summertime, dude. Summertime.
Yeah, especially since being cooped up all spring, right?
That's for sure. No, it's been.
So I'm inside. My sport's an inside sport. I'm always wrestling, lifting, studying video. It's inside. So I do enjoy getting out for nice walks.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. All right. Hey, Coach Ken, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on the podcast and just have a great discussion. Before you go, are there any last thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
No, you hit so many areas. I mean, be a scholar athlete, not a dumb jock. That's the biggest message I get across to young people. And, make a commitment to excellence. Be the very best you can be. Most acutely, Swish. I mean, we talked about camp. It's coming up. It's right. The first week of July 12th through 17th is actually near capacity. We have openings in the Super Bowl for July 12th through 24th. I added a second week because that first week is so packed, July 18th through 23rd. But all the details are on my website, just my name, KenChertow.com, and people can contact me at camps@KenChertow.com on email. I'm very personally involved, and that's my life's work. Like we just talked about, what's my hobby? Helping kids excel, helping them get to college, helping them live the dream. So whether it's wrestling, nutrition, or life, I'm here for you, and I'm very accessible to reach out to. So anybody that wants help I'm easy to get a hold of.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, again, I'm just going to thank you not only for coming on, but also for all the things that you've given me in my wrestling career and for my life in general. And Coach, I just do really appreciate it, and I owe you a lot. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who made it through this interview and listened to us. It's much appreciated. And Coach, we'll definitely get you back on sometime, talk a little bit more wrestling. So.
All right. I'm proud of you. Great. Very impressive questions, man. Beyond the adult ordinary. You're special, buddy. Proud of you.
Thank you, Coach. All right. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.